traditional NAND SSDs and 3D X-Point, that a lot of server enterprises, really wanted it for their servers. The only issue was it was very expensive to make this because Intel was the only company that could make this. So in order to combat this, what they have done is they have added a small layer called the octane cache, and then they have a traditional NAND part where you store the storage. And what they do is they implement another neural network where it learns which programs that you're using, which data that you're accessing, and puts that into that X-Point cache. So what it does is it tremendously speeds up the things that you regularly do. So let's say you always open Chrome the first thing when you open your laptop. Storing that program into the X-Point cache will significantly speed up things than having it on an SSD, which is already fast, right? So because this is being run in the background where there is no noticeable effect except for side effects, we can say that this is a very good implementation as well. Now, a few days ago I saw something called an AI fire alarm where the goal was simple. They wanted to replace the same smoke detector with a camera to detect if there is smoke, right? Now, do any of you have an idea as to why this is a very, very, very bad implementation?
There are many fires which don't have smoke.
Correct, one. The other one is, you know how we have been training AI models and we get accuracy of 90%, 92% and so on, right? So when it's a pattern prediction, it's basically trying to predict patterns. And you have fires, and all you have to do is load a data set of fires, you get specific patterns and you try to recreate. Now the issue is, this is not 100% perfect. Let's say there's a fire this thing cannot recognize. And let's say you've installed this in an institution like, let's say our college, right? It's going to burn down. So this I know a lot of you want it, but still. The key takeaway here is, when safety is paramount and when there is something that already works, you're not going to touch it with AI because it's more often than not will obviously make it worse. So my idea here is some things have to be dumb. They do not have to be smart at all. And this is something that I feel a lot of companies and a lot of people who are getting into CS do not understand very particularly. They want to make everything smart, whereas sometimes things being dumb will work perfectly, if not better than it being smart. So this is something that came out recently, where Mahindra said they with a new car, which are called Born Electric. So essentially what they wanted to do is, they had something called regenerative braking, right? So when you lift off the accelerator in an EV, the motor recuperates some of its energy by giving by acting as a brake. Now, usually all these manufacturers, they have levels of this, but then Mahindra decided, hey, what if I take the data from the front camera, see if there are things in front of me, and then adjust the region accordingly. Now, you can see the issues here, right? First off, you think, hey, this is smart, right? You don't have to fiddle with the levels and whatnot. But imagine you're a driver who's driving, and every time you lift off the accelerators, you do not know how the car is going to react. And there's also this case where cameras cannot recognize fallen over trucks. We've seen examples where Tesla cars have straight up slammed into dummy tests, right? So in that case, we find out that it is not very predictable. And since this interferes with a human driver who is driving, who is controlling the car himself, you find out that modifying a very critical aspect, which is just lifting off the accelerator and changing that particular pattern, is going to, which it literally just means the driver has to again recalibrate himself to an AI model, which itself does not know how it's going to react. So this is a very bad example again, and that leads to a very important takeaway, where when a human is directly involved, you should not ever try to make the things he or she is using smart. Because the moment you do that, the idea of, hey, this is how a thing is supposed to work is gone, right? You're now wondering if this particular thing is going to work or if it's not going to work. You have to start to predict, hey, will this model begin to do what it's supposed to do or will it do something else? And adding that extra layer of thought is not a good idea, especially when you're going through like a lot of work, right? So what is a better implementation of this case? You just go for ADAS, which is Advanced Driver Aid System or Full Self-Driving, because here you're taking the entire responsibility away from the driver or the person and putting it onto the AI system. In this case, the person there is only going to supervise what AI is doing, and the AI system is primarily doing what it's supposed to be. So it is not interfering with what the person there is actually doing. Now, this is why vibe coding also works, because you just give it a prompt, which is overseeing what it does, and it does all the things for you. And this is why stuff like vibe coding works, but then AI alarms and, well, AI fans all don't work really well. So, if we were to just take these examples, I've tried to limit these examples because this is during lunch. But if we were to like take all of these takeaways one by one, when we are making a project with AI, these are 6 key takeaways that you'll have to remember before implementing it or going forward with it. So first is it interfering a human operator? Second is it replacing any safety related implementations? So imagine if Boeing says, hey, the automatic door ejection systems, they're now run with AI. Would you probably like go onto the air track? Like Boeing already has a bad reputation. So you might as well give something that's robust and works dependably. So is this affecting a human dangerously? Again, there are examples where they try to implement AI and systems like oil rigs or whatever, and they've not really gone forward with it. So let us say the AI automatically controls the oil rig valve depending on, there are issues, right? So what if there's a fire and the human is not able to like turn off the valve, and the AI just decides, you know what, I'm just going to pump more oil. So you see that if it's going to affect a human directly or indirectly, you do not do that. So is it improving the experience of working or using the service being targeted? So like the option that you've seen, like adaptive battery, adaptive charging, where you're trying to learn patterns and significantly improving the user experience at no side effect, like at no cost. This is going to be a much better place where you can target using AI, right? And the 5th point is very important. Is there any tangible benefit by making the system smart? For example, if you take the PC fans in your PC, right? They're already being modulated by the hardware. So depending on the temperatures, they either spool up or they spool down. If you make this smart, does this make it any better? I don't really think so. It's already perfectly working on a very on a scale that works right. So if you mix it with AI, you're only adding more uncertainty, because one, you know that models aren't perfect, and number 2, this thing is already working. Why fix it? So, and the last point that you have to remember is how flexible is the end use case with respect to mistakes. And this is why a full self-driving is also not a very perfect implementation, because if there is a single mistake, you have potential to kill humans, and this is somewhere you shouldn't be doing. But again, maybe the advantages are a lot greater than disadvantages, and that's why they're going forward with it. But again, factor of safety is really important, and negliging that will lead to disaster, and we're like kind of leaving it to a very smart system, which we don't know what will do at a very particular stage. So again, when you go through all of these 6 points and try to make a project through it, you find out that this is not particularly exciting. And that's okay, because the goal for making these products is not that they should be marketable, but rather they should be tangible, and they should be adding value to the experience, right? By not doing so, by focusing on marketing, all these companies have literally forgotten their roots, where how development actually took place, and they're just throwing out slop, and all that slop is just deteriorating the perceived exception, it's just deteriorating the experience of using a neural network, right? So, Apple Intelligence is a very good example. So they said, Apple Intelligence, AI starts for Apple Intelligence and whatnot. There's so much hype, but the moment it was released, it was way worse than Siri used to be, and Siri was already a bad to us. So, that concludes the talk. Any questions? Any things that you guys would like to add? Do you guys have any questions or any things that you want to add?
This one, your Mahindra's the AI agent rating, technically that's been implemented by various other companies. Like, I don't see why you feel that's useless limit.
Okay, so the reason that I say it's pretty wrong is because they've implemented it in their newer model, where they do not give you an option of setting it to a specific level.
Are you trying to say like Mahindra's implementation is shitty, or are you saying?
No, you shouldn't be having that in the first place. You should be having that in the first place. Is my opinion.
BYD has
Yeah.
implemented it. It's like selling in their market at the moment. Toyota is not going to implement that by next year.
Okay, that's the point. That's where you're getting it from. Mahindra does not have an option for you to set up regularly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Mahindra's implementation is shitty.
No, you shouldn't be having it in the first place.
No, but you can see BYD is like, it is prominent enough that many people
Sure.
want it. It's like a feature in it.
I mean, I can agree to disagree. I don't want that.
I'm saying it's like not a gimmick. It's like some
It is more of a gimmick when it's the only option that you have. If your only option is to rely on the auto mode, you probably wouldn't really use it. Right? It's not that like that.
You're saying that why they haven't regenerated rating using it. I'm trying to say that why they have you're trying to say why you need it at all. And it's very giving part of your then why you self-driving cars in the future they're also implemented. Tesla is also experimenting there. Every other company is doing it. Why are they
See, again, I'll get to this again. If you have an option to set the region braking of your choice while you're driving, it is a predictable measure that you can learn, right? When it's the only option where you have to rely on an AI model telling you how much it should regen, then it's not a good idea. Like, I get your point, some people would like to have it, but imagine a driver driving for a long distance, and let's say he's going through mixed conditions. If he lifts off during the highway, it's not going to reach as much. That's fine. But let's say city traffic. What if the AI suddenly decides you don't need reason? You have to react to an incident. It's not, it will never be standard notion. That's what I'm telling you. It has to be robust for the system to work the same way all the time. AI will not do that. If your rate does not work the way expected to, and it's an error, I will not write this down. Exactly, if they say okay, where do you use the brake? You tell me, man, where do you use the brake? You stop the car. In case of emergency, you stop the car. It does not stop and it does not react the way it's supposed to. And it's an emergency situation. You think about, oh no, something's wrong, or it's just safety second. I'm not changing money to make it. When a human is in charge, it means using the phone. That human must not be, just that human must not be. You don't have to touch the car.